Yes, guys, Yan Diomande has picked PSG for his next club. He sees this as the best place for his development. Some people are pissed off, some people are disappointed, some people feel a bit embarrassed, and some people just don't care at all. So I don't know where you fall in that in terms of your feelings. I'm not here to dictate your feelings or say your feelings are wrong. I'm just here to share my opinion and to discuss where we go from here in terms of alternative options, maybe an alternative structure. But we'll get into that. Before I start, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's taken the time to watch my videos, everyone that's liking, sharing, subscribing. If you could hit the subscription button now and the like button, that would be so appreciated. I'm on the road to 200. I'm not far off. So anyone that can just subscribe and get me closer. Like I said, I don't really have anywhere I'm trying to take this channel. I'm just doing it for the love of the game. So yeah, thank you everyone, man, that's taking the time. So let's get into it. Yan Diamande's picked PSG. I'm completely fine with it in terms of, listen, who am I to dictate where this player goes to play football? I want the best for my club. We saw Yan Diomande as the number one target. We saw his outline numbers, underline numbers, and thought, you know what, this kid's got potential to be world class. This is our top target. Let's get him through the door. And that's where I stood on it. However, he's going to do what's best for him. He thinks PSG is the best place for his development. They're back-to-back Champions League winners. They've got Luis Enrique, who's probably the best manager in the world right now. They've got the best team in the world right now, and their project doesn't look like it's slowing down. So for a person, I think in the Ivory Coast, they speak French, so he's going to take no time to settle in there at all. His dad lives in Paris, apparently, so again, that's another key factor. So there's no hard feelings from me. I'm not going to lie, I wanted this player. For a lot of the reasons I've just said, his underlying numbers, the potential to what he could be. And listen, it could turn out to be a massive loss, or, maybe we don't feel it at all. There's been a lot of outcry on Twitter and stuff, and I kind of thought, right, should I do an instant video or should I take my time? I'm kind of glad I took my time because it's given me time to look at things from, hopefully a more neutral, logical point of view. Whereas last night I was a bit pissed off, and today, taking some time and looked at it from the player's perspective. And it is what it is, man. Listen, people are going to miss out. We're going to miss out on transfers. It's not the first time it's happened. It's not the last time it's going to happen. It happens to every single club. So I'm trying not to get involved in all this food chain nonsense and, Liverpool have no pool nonsense because, listen, it's all an online narrative. So if you want to engage in that, that's up to you. I'm not biting. So it is what it is. But yeah, so where do Liverpool go from here? A lot of names have been mentioned. I think there's three concrete names within the media, which were Yakuba Minter from Brighton, El Mala. I think he plays for a team in Germany. I can't pronounce it. Köln. I'm not sure how you say that name. And of course, Fernandez Pardo. And this is what I was talking about in terms of drop off. I think any of those three would have been fine as your versatile forwards. Yakuba Minter is, he looks exciting on the eye. However, are his underlying numbers up to standard? I'm going to have to do more research, but his surface numbers didn't impress me last year, considering Brighton were challenging for Europe, and he only finished the season with 3 goals. And I wondered, was I being too harsh on the kid? But I don't think so, because Brighton are a very attacking team. Like I said, they were chasing Europe. A lot of people rate this guy, and maybe I need to do more research, and maybe I'm wrong. And listen, if we sign him and I have to eat my words, great. I've not got too much ego in the sense of where I don't want to be proven wrong. Listen, if you can prove me wrong, great, man. If it's going to benefit my club, like, why would I want the kid to fail? But I think Brighton are going to demand a big fee. Listen, everyone in world football knows Liverpool need a right winger this year. So they're going to hold us to ransom to some degree. There's talks about El Mala being around 40 to 50 million. If you can get that, I don't, but he's another player that he seems way more comfortable on the left. As with Fernandez Pardo. Fernandez Pardo obviously can cover across the front three, and I thought he would be a good option before we signed Victor Munoz, in terms of can play as a striker. He looks very comfortable on the left, and he can do a job on the right. So I don't see the logic in signing him if we are going to go for Bradley Barcola. Bradley Barcola is the big one, and we need to get this done. But are we going to use Bradley Barcola in a similar way that we use Sadio Mane in his first year and play him on the right? Would he want to come knowing that he's going to play on the right? He has played on the right for Lyon. I think he's done it a few times for PSG. However, he seems more comfortable on the left, and I don't like playing footballers out of their, their actual established position. The reason we like him so much is because of what he's done on the left. He plays on the left for France. Like I said, he has done a job on the right at times for PSG. Um, but do we look at it and say, okay, we just need you to do a job there for one season, and do we then keep Cody Gakpo for the left wing position, or do we go for a young project type player, maybe an El Mala then, or a Fernandez Pardo, and play them on the left? It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's what we should do. All I know is I want Bradley Barcola through the door. There's going to be other clubs that want this kid. I say he's a kid. He's 22, 23. So he's at that age now where he wants consistent football. Liverpool can guarantee him consistent football, especially off the left. And that's where I want to use him. I am going to suggest another name because I've seen this mentioned. It's not been reported in the media, but a couple of people have spoken about it, and that's Ethan Nwaneri. I think this kid's potential is ridiculous. I liked him, that season he broke through at Arsenal, and then there was talks about him not signing a new contract because he didn't see a pathway there. He eventually signed it. He went on loan to, is it Marseille that he went on loan to? He definitely went to the French league, and he's done okay there. But I think his ceiling is so high. The only issue I've got with this signing is he's not an out-and-out winger. He's more of like a, I've seen the term wing fielder used, or an inside forward. He can be a man on the outside, but he definitely likes to cut in more and occupy that number 10 position. And maybe that's something we have to do if you can get him for a good price. I'm fine with that, just based on what this kid's ceiling is. People are like, so why are Arsenal letting him go then if he's this good? The issue is Arsenal can't guarantee him a pathway. They've got Saka and Madueke on the right. They've got Eze and Erdegaard, who are essentially the 10s. Eze can play on the left, but then even on the left, there's talks about Morgan Rogers coming in. They've still got Martinelli and Trossard, which I'm sure one or two of them will leave. And yeah, so from what I'm hearing, this guy's available. Arsenal are going to be willing to sell. I don't know what the price would be. Historically, Arsenal don't sell players for big money. Whether that's going to change now, I don't know. And it could, based on this kid's potential. Like I said, I'd be very happy with Nwaneri. He is a project, but he seems like a very Liverpool gamble type player, and I think he's not going to go for the sort of money that Yakuba Minte is. I could be wrong, and people might tell me otherwise, and that's completely fine. It's just I don't see what other options we kind of have right now, unless there's some names that I haven't mentioned. Please feel free to drop some in the comments, and I can check them out. Like I said, I'm kind of getting back into the swing of looking at players from Europe and stuff. Like, I watch a lot of Premier League. I don't have time to watch La Liga and or the French league as much these days. So yeah, there could be other names out there that you guys think are way better, someone that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's completely fine. But there's another thing that we could possibly do with that whole Nwaneri signing. And I say that because if he's going to be your project forward, we can't expect him to absolutely light it up this year. He'll be a rotational player. He'll rotate with Rio, because Rio can play on the right. He'll rotate with Munoz, again, another versatile forward that can play on the right. And that's fine. Listen, I'm not expecting miracles this season. Of course, listen, we're Liverpool Football Club. We should be going for the title. But we've got to be realistic. Yan Diomande was your number one target. You haven't been able to get this kid through the door. So you have to go now down the list. And listen, alternatives have worked really well for Liverpool in the past. Mo Salah wasn't our number one target. It certainly wasn't Klopp's. Sadio Mane wasn't the number one target. I think Klopp were in Mario Götze at the time. So it can work. So what I'm going to suggest is Liverpool to go big in the midfield, just to subsidise that maybe the output of the forwards. Listen, I'm still expecting the forwards to bang this year. Isak has to step up. Vert has to step up this year. There are no excuses. If we get Barcola through the door, I'm sure that he's going to score goals. If it's Nwaneri, so don't confirm. I'm saying if it's Nwaneri, he's going to get goals. He's going to get assists. But if we're having to score, listen, if the output's dropping, then we also need to make sure we're conceding less goals. And this is what I was talking about before in terms of output machines. There's not many available on the market. So when I'm talking about Wanyeri, I'm talking about potential. I'm called to pay 50, 60 million for potential rather than, 80 million for a player that I've seen in the Premier League and still can't put up decent numbers. And it could improve under Iraola. Listen, if Yakuba Minte comes, of course I'm going to support this guy. Iraola's proven that he gets the best out of forwards. He improves their output. And he turns them into very, very good players. But if we're not willing to gamble on a Yakuba Minte and we are on Wanyeri, I think we should shore up the midfield. Make it very, very hard to bypass. So if you're having to go get a Buadi, and again, Buadi is another player that we could miss out on. But I would partner him with a Mateus Fernandes. It's not sealed yet. And the money that you were going to spend on a Yan Diomande, would we be better off going for Mateus Fernandes? Spurs haven't sealed the deal. United haven't sealed the deal. I don't know what's going on there. Profile-wise, this guy's perfect. Yes, he's not got the best track record. I think he's been relegated back to back, but he stood out in both of those teams. He's a defensive workhorse, but he's also very, very good on the ball. So if you've got a Buadi whose first thing is to sniff out danger, to win challenges, and you've got Mateus Fernandes next to him who can, spray the ball around, be a bit of a metronome, it's a perfect balance. And we also make ourselves harder to beat. I want Liverpool to play attacking football, and under Iraola, I think that we will. But if you can also make sure that you're conceding less goals, if you can make sure that the defenders have to engage less, especially compared to how much they were having to engage last season because the midfield were just getting bypassed week after week. We were just too easy to play through. And if we can reduce that, I'm called to win games 1-0, 2-0, 3-1, whatever it is. I don't need to slap teams every week. I prefer slapping teams every week, but the output's not there for any available winger this season. And I could be wrong. So, one of these alternative names could come in and absolutely light it up for us. And I hope it happens if we do go for them. I'm never going to want a Liverpool player to fail just because I didn't rate a player before they arrived. And they will get my support. If Yakuba Minte is the one that Liverpool go for, I will back him. I'm not the kind of person to start agendas. I want every Liverpool player to thrive. I just don't want them to get it wrong this year, because if you get it wrong this summer, you have to now rectify it next year and spend an additional 70, 80 million to get it right again. So that's why I wonder, will they go for a young prospect in Wanyeri in the hopes that they can get him for a good fee and can kind of make do in terms of the versatility that we hopefully will have it in the forward line. And then next season, we can kind of review where we're at. If he's performed, great. We don't need to worry about another right winger, or, we can probably find like an understudy. If it hasn't worked or it's working, but we still feel like we need an established right winger, we can go out and sort that problem next year. We didn't know who Yan Diomande was until January this year. A lot of us didn't anyway. So every season, there's new players coming through. There's players that make a name for themselves. So there's a possibility it can happen next season. I just want Liverpool to get it right. And that's what worries me. A lot of the players that we want, of course, other teams want them too. So it's about, guaranteeing them minutes and also selling the project. Are we doing a good job of selling the project? Maybe it doesn't help that Richard Hughes is, halfway in, halfway out. There's talks about him going to, is it Al Hilal next season? And that doesn't help the cause, does it? In terms of selling the project, in terms of stability. And I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Players buy into projects as much as a club status. Where are you going forward? Are we going to be competing? Am I going to be playing with very, very good footballers? And we do have good footballers at the club, but we also need to be showing potential targets. This is what else we're going to add alongside you. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of at. And of course, there's Rayan as well from Bournemouth. And again, that's going to be an astronomical fee. And the sample size is small. So for everyone saying, Diamande's only had one, good season, as a 19-year-old at the top level. Rayan's only had half a season in the Prem. And yes, he's impressed and he looks very, very good. He looks very direct, great touch. He's shown he can score goals. He's shown he can link up well with the other forwards. So it's an exciting prospect. Will Liverpool pay the money? Will Bournemouth be willing to let him go in the summer, knowing that they have an £130 million release clause in January? So, maybe that's something we can pull off. And if we do, shout out to the club, man. Shout out to the board for getting it done, if that is your number 2 option. I just think it's unlikely right now. I've been quite optimistic so far in this transfer window, and look, I'm not going to let the negativity kind of creep in. but it is alarming. It's a lot. It's very worrying. You know, it's all very silent right now. And silence isn't a bad thing. You know, maybe it means that stuff's happening behind the scenes, and most likely that's what it does mean. But we do need to start getting a move on. I think the team's reporting back to pre-season in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Um, of course, you know, the World Cup's going on, so I understand. And we don't always get the majority of our work done before pre-season, but it'd be nice to get, you know, 2 or 3 signings in before that time. So, you know, if these players are at the World Cup, you know, they get their rest, they can join up with the team. Maybe they want to come back early because they're at a new club. So that's kind of where my concerns are right now. But let me know what you guys think. Who are your options for the right wing position? Do you think Barcola is going to play there and we maybe go for a left winger, or do you think Barcola will play then we keep Gakpo? Is there any names that I haven't mentioned that you think would be a better fit? Do you agree with me about Wanyeri or, you know, Minter? I know Minter's got a lot of fans out there. So shout out you guys, man. You know, and if we do get him, I hope you're right about him. What do you think about the midfield? What do you think we need to do moving forward? That's what I'm interested to know. So please comment, but please also like and share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, SimTalksLFC. The link is also in my bio. Not that kind of link, but the Twitter link is in my bio. So yeah, have a good one, guys, and I will see you soon. There's definitely more content coming out this week. I was just in a bit of a rut over the weekend. We've been talking about transfers all week and nothing kind of happened. But, you know, I've got some more ideas for stuff to put out this week. So a massive shout out to you guys, man. Thank you.